What is happening, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you for joining us here at the garage each and every Friday night. I know it's a slight change of time to what I had going on before, but I appreciate you making the change with me and coming on over. I'd like to give a shout out, Rainy Cruz. Unless someone else got it first, I see gold position going to Rainy Cruz here tonight. John Music, who was my guest last week. If you guys did not catch the episode, John, the episode is back up. We were to go get that audio out of there for you that they took us down for, and we're back up and running. So if you guys haven't caught John's episode with me, please check that out from last week. We have Nightmare getting the bronze position as Rainy and John both got gold and silver. We got Wes H. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us tonight. Who else we got in here? Let's see. I know, I think it was Ghost Dragons. Yes, Ghost Dragons. That's okay. One got by you. It got to our internet somehow. That's okay. No shame in the game. You're a good soldier, and you keep them off of us almost every week. One's managed to get through. You know, that's just what's going to happen. Who else we got? Kelly Lewis, thank you for being here tonight. Bree and Jamie with That One Time I Was Abducted by Aliens says, let's go. Enzo, my man, my brother, what is shaking? How are we doing this fine evening? We're already getting butt rated and butt loved tonight. 509 Divine Pines. Dude, head is so shiny. I know, guys. I shaved that bad boy right on down. You guys like it? I think that's the look I'm going to stick with. I tell you what. Enough of the hat game, right? Be proud of your head. Be proud of your body. Spooky. Thank you so much for all the love you guys have over there. I want to apologize too right off the bat. I was telling Sev, as she's backstage for us right now, that I don't know what's been going on this whole week. I didn't even have a voice yesterday. So we're going to see how the voice hangs in there as we continue to get all the love from you guys. Thank you so much for butt rating the UFO Garage here tonight. We thank you very much for tuning in. Like I said, do your best, I guess, to deal with me. I know I don't sound how I would normally sound. That's why we got Sev here. I was telling him last night, I said, listen, I'm setting you up. You're setting up to be the golden star for the night more than you already are. Kelly Lewis, thank you for being here as well. And then really quick too, guys, my guest next week is going to be Thin Lizzie Borden as well as Scary Gary. And I'm very excited for this one. They both have, obviously, experiences as individuals as well as a couple. And I'm very excited to kind of just sit down with them and have a nice laid-back conversation that we have. You know, Joe and Ben and everybody who's been here before knows that they've set up a great community to allow experiencers to come in and just share their stories, no matter how, famous or non-famous they might be. You talk to anybody and ask them, hey, have you ever experienced anything weird? And it's pretty amazing what people will tell you when you just give them a chance to open up. So let's see. Oh, yes. No, Sev is a beautiful woman. I can see her backstage right now. She's, we got a smile. She says, thank you very much for that. So really quickly too, guys, before I kick that off, I just want to mention, this is one other small thing. I hate to even bring it up, but just to get it out of the way, we talked about this last time, so we're going to keep talking about it. YouTube takes 40% of all the hard work that you guys put in for the hard money that you guys have earned. And so we have changed up by putting our PayPals and our Cash Apps and Venmo. We've tried to make as many options as we can for you guys. If you would like to donate to the boys here at the garage and myself, please feel free. In the show notes, we have all that linked for you guys now. Just know they are indicated. So if you specifically want to donate to Joe and Ben, even though we're a collective group of guys over here, we're all doing the same work. But if you want the donation to go to one person or the other, it is all indicated in case that matters to you. And it's going to save us a lot more money. And honestly, you too. I mean, we're talking almost 40% of everything you guys donate to us. It's just strictly going to YouTube. So if you could kind of start to transition to that would be amazing. But super chats are always welcome, and they are a great way to support the show. And if you do that, I'm super excited about this. Ben sent this over to me last week, which is that every quarter we will choose a group to donate 20% of our earnings to help those in need of extra support. This quarter, we chose Anomaly Archives. Let's help Anomaly Archives find a new home. If you'd like to donate directly to them, here's that link as well. And I'm going to copy and paste that for you guys and put it into the chat right now. And like I said, we're also donating that 20% to the community kind of as a whole, so that anything that's going on going forward, whether it be events, venues, anything like that, it may not be that much, but we're doing our part to be able to help out, because it's helped us so much as a community, as individuals, I should say, as well as those we've been able to interact with and hang out with in the community. So let me just drop this over in the chat. Once again, if you'd like to help them out, that is going to be right there. All right, let's see what else we got. No more super chats. Jamie and Bree knows what's up. They say no more super chats. That's right. Yeah, it used to be 30%, and it sometimes is. If it exceeds certain markers, then they bump up to that 40%. So anytime we had those big tips, anything that was like 25 and plus or 50, especially the 100 ones, there was the 40%. Simon Wells from Down Under, my mate. Thank you for being here tonight. All right, guys, enough of me rambling. I believe that concludes all of the paperwork to get out of the way before we bring in the reason you guys are all here tonight, which is Sev Tok to share her story and her experiences. So really quick too, guys, let me also put this up on the bottom. Just put this up at least. All right, here we go. Let me put this up. Whoops, it didn't even pop up. You guys know I've done this many times. Here we go. All right, before we bring her in, guys, Sev Tok is a speaker, author, spiritual counselor, and lifelong experiencer. Originally from Istanbul, Turkey, she immigrated to the U.S. as a little girl, not knowing English as she started first grade and earned a Bachelor of Science degree in biology from Loyola University. Sev's ET contact started at age 10, which she kept a secret until 2017 when Grace burned a red X mark in her back. This ET contact prompted her to come out in 2018 as a speaker at Alien Con, and through her book, You Have the Right to Talk About Aliens, You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens. Endorsed by renowned UFO researcher Kathleen Marden, she is currently working on her next book, Alien Wisdom. Sev is featured in the Canadian TV docuseries Encounter, UFO Physical Contact, has been interviewed around the world, speaks at conferences, and is honored to be the master of ceremonies at MUFON's International Symposium in Denver in July 2022, which is coming up, guys. As a MUFON field investigator for North Carolina and a member of MUFON's Experiencer Resource Team, ERT, Sev helps experiencers around the world. She also offers guidances to experiencers through Tell Me Your ET Story on her website, planetsev.com, her monthly newsletter, and her YouTube channel, Alien Spirit TV. Sev's newest endeavor is her online course, The Psychic Studio, created to expand one's paranormal abilities. That'll be interesting. We'll dig into that tonight for sure. The 6-module course includes the newest in psi research written information, videos on how to strengthen your psychic abilities, and the Physic Forum, a live interaction Zoom session with Sev. For the past 12 years, Sev has been conducting soul sessions with clients around the world, providing interdimensional guidance to activate one's purpose to manifest a fulfilling, successful, and dynamic life. A planet and star system is named after her in Star Wars Galactic System. I did know this one, actually, guys. I had that one on there. You can find the Sev Tok star system and planet in Wikipedia. Sev lives on the Inner Banks of North Carolina and is available for speaking arrangement and consultation and media appearances. And in saying all that, guys, I would like to actually go to the right screen so I can actually bring in Sev. Whoops. Did I lose Sev? No, here it is. I got too many screens open. Sev, thank you for being on the UFO Garage tonight, or on the other end of it, which is Old Blue with Big Willy. So thank you for being here tonight. And guys, everything I just mentioned is linked in the show notes, and I do have links to those that I will be dropping periodically throughout the night. So please know if you are interested in any one of those things, please scroll down, and they are all listed individually for your convenience. I don't think we could have made it much more convenient for you, so please go check it out. For sure, her YouTube channel, wherever she would like you to check it out. So Sev, thank you for being here tonight.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for making the time. Like I said, I know it's a little later in the evening, but sometimes that's the way it goes. I mean, it's who knows, the winter times, I feel like, what is it right now, 10:30 in the summertime? Come on, there's still some times I'm out in the bonfire at 10:30, you know what I mean? The sun's maybe gone down not that long ago, but like in the wintertime, it's like 10:30. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been dark for hours. I need to go hibernate. I don't know where I am. It's just, oh man. Yes, so thank you for being here once again. And like I said, I will make sure I drop these over here in the notes, as well as in the chat for people that would like to check out your books, because you do have 2 of them now. So let's get that out of the way, because like I said, people always forget. They always mention stuff at the end, and I always think it's important to get that out of the way in the beginning. So what was your first book, and what inspired that? Let's start there.
The first book is You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens. and that came out in August 2018, and that was my coming out.
Okay.
I had the encounter with the Greys in 2017 here on the inner banks of North Carolina, where they put the 2 red X marks on my tush,
Yeah.
and that changed my life, and that led me to Kathleen Martin because I needed help. I had to process it because I finally had to face what I'd been denying my whole entire life. I've been a lifelong experiencer, but I've been denying it, and I've just been trying to hide it from myself. So these 2 X's finally made me face it, and I was scared. Yep, that's the first X that appeared on my left cheek, and it happened the second night I moved here to the Inner Banks, and I was in the kitchen unpacking, and I felt something bite my butt, and it hurt. So I yelled over to my boyfriend at the time, Patrick. I yelled over, Patrick, will you please look at my butt because I think something bit it.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah. So I walk over to the couch and I bend over, and he says nothing, and I start to get very afraid. And at this point, I had been having contact with the Greys, and I thought back then that the Greys were bad. I thought they were evil, but now I don't think that anymore. But back then I did. So after what seemed like a lifetime of silence, I asked him, well, did something bite me? And he said, yeah, and there's also a red X. And he showed me a picture of this, and I was just shocked. And I knew right away that it was the Greys. And I said to him, okay, we're just going to ignore this. We're going to pretend like this never happened, because that's what I've been used to doing my whole entire life. Every time something weird happened, there was something weird on my body, just ignore it.
How did he handle that, if you don't mind me asking, as far as you kind of just shutting this down? Because I'm looking at the marks as well as those in the chat, and I think we can all conclude that that's not a normal, that's not a bug bite, right? That's not something you're going to just chalk up as, rationally. I suppose even trying to be rational about it, does that look like a bed bug bite or something? You know what I mean? If you're trying to think of just anything it could be.
Yeah, I tried to figure out what it could be. And my boyfriend at the time, he's very logical, and he was stunned. And I've had people look at it. I've had people measure in between the circles, and they're equidistant. And
Wow.
they were red, and they were flush against my skin. So when I touched it with my fingers, I couldn't feel it. And then
Really?
9 days later, I came to in my bedroom, and I had this download of a memory where I was lying on a bed that resembled a hospital bed, and I was on my side, and I couldn't move my arms and I couldn't move my legs. I felt paralyzed, and I felt something behind me, so I could move my head, and I turned around, and right here was the Gray. And we looked into each other's eyes. We locked eyes, and I describe in the book, it was like looking into 2 pools of black oil. And there was no telepathic communication. In the past, every time I had contact with the Greys, there was telepathic communication. This time there was nothing. And that freaked me out even more. For some reason, as humans, we don't like neutral behavior. Neutral behavior kind of freaks us out. We either want you to be really nice or really mean, but just totally neutral is kind of creepy.
Yeah.
And so I was scared to death. And I turned my head back around, and then I was popped into my bedroom. And I went downstairs, waited for Patrick to wake up. And the weird thing is, he always gets up before I do, but for some reason I got up before he did. And I was very, very nervous, because as I'm waiting for him, I'm thinking, if I have another ex, I don't think I can handle it. Like, this is too much for me. I won't be able to deal with it. So he came downstairs, and I told him everything. And I also told him there's one more thing that I've never experienced before. And when I was lying on that bed in that room, I knew I was on the moon.
Really?
Yeah,
Just the sense of knowing.
yeah. And I've never had that before.
Yeah, that's, I mean, and it's so interesting to me that you mentioned that, and you're not the only one, I suppose, that is those have mentioned before knowing about possibly some of the interactions with, say, the moon and things that have happened that way. Now, I believe this was a rendition, or excuse me, a artist rendition of what you've seen.
Yeah,
Is that
I do
correct?
that. That was the gray that was standing right behind me.
I gotcha.
Yeah, and he was about 4 feet tall, and his skin was like a cross between gray and human pink skin. And so after I told my ex what happened and where I was, I asked him to look at my butt again. And he did, and there was silence. And I knew. And I said, well, is there another X? And he said, yes, there's another X, just like the
Hmm.
first one, but this time it's on the right cheek. And they were directly across from each other. And I have a picture of it in my book. And it's really hard to describe what it feels like when everything you know is just shattered. It was
Yeah.
like the rug of reality was just pulled out, yanked out from underneath me. And I was scared and I was angry because, like I said, I didn't like the Grays back then. And I thought they were toying with me. And I was confused. I was like, what am I doing in the middle of the night hanging out with aliens? And why are they putting marks on my body? And who am I? And who are we? And what's happening? And it was like an existential crisis.
Yeah.
And so my ex asked me, well, what can I do for you? How can I help you? And there was nothing. I had no answer. Um, I just calmed myself down and I told him I need help. I don't know where the help is going to come from, but for the first time in my life, I have to admit that I need help. And
Hmm.
I just let it organically happen. And that's how I found Kathleen Martin, who was a big help for me.
Do you think, in some ways, because, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you know of yet, you've never figured out the exact reason for the markings, correct?
I have my personal theories why, but
Okay.
mhm.
Well, I was just curious because the reason I'm kind of asking is because you had these interactions, you knew about them from age 10, right, leading up to this. But do you think it was just enough in your face to where it was like, all right, you can't ignore this anymore. You can't
Yes,
pretend and brush it off as a memory, right? I mean, I'm
yes,
just curious. That is, I guess, the consensus in my own head just from listening to you in the past and you tell your story. And I've always wanted to ask you that. And because I guess in your own words, how do you feel or why do you feel that that took place so in your face, as it were, with such a large marking like that?
yeah. Well, I needed something drastic because they had been giving me signs my whole entire life, and I just kept ignoring it. There would be marks on my body, a scoop mark. I remember one time looking down, and there was a scoop of skin missing, and there was
Mm.
no blood. And you know how a paper cut hurts? Like I didn't even feel that. There was no scab or anything. So I'd look at that and I would just make an excuse for it. There'd be like triangular shaped things on my body, and I would just laugh it off and say, oh, a bug bit me in a triangle. One time there was literally a rectangle sliced out of my back. You could see four
Oh my
straight
gosh.
slice marks. And I have a picture of that in the book too. I just kept ignoring everything. And I do think that I have agreed in a higher sense, from a higher perspective, to to just talk about these experiences and to broaden awareness,
Yeah.
and just to wake some people up. And I wasn't doing it, so I needed something huge. Not everybody needs a huge wake up call or like to be clobbered over the head to like wake up and to express their authentic selves, but I did.
Let's do this a little bit because I love what you just said there about the fact that you're helping, wake others up. And I know sometimes that term, some people associate that with a kind of a derogatory term anymore, and I don't really think it is, because I think that you're helping wake, you literally are helping those wake up to themselves, right? And let's go back to your first experience, because this is something that I believe a lot of experiencers, even if it's not clear for them, sometimes it is very oddly clear, that first experience, more than maybe even the others that have followed. What was your first experience as that 10-year-old girl? And did you have an experience prior to that, or is it just that's when you knew that an experience had taken place?
My first conscious memory was when I was 10, and I was regularly visited by this being for a couple of years, so many times that I lost count. And
Wow.
this being resembled a human male, just slightly different. And he would come in this big spaceship, and each time he came from a different direction. And he would hover over me. I could see underneath, and it was so big, like I couldn't see the sky. And I was so happy. I was really excited because I felt like I was seeing a brother. And he would come down and we'd talk, and he'd just check up on me and make sure I was okay. And and then I would find myself in my bedroom, and I would have to get dressed and go to fifth grade and just completely ignore it and not say
Wow.
anything to anybody. Now, I could have told my parents because my parents were very open, but I didn't, and I don't know why I did.
It's funny how
So,
that happens, isn't it?
yeah.
It
So
really
this
can
went
be.
on for a couple of years.
Okay.
And I remember the last time I saw him, this was very different, because this time, for the first time, I was with other children. And I didn't see their faces because we were lined up like this, but I was just in my peripheral vision. I could see kids that were about my height.
Yeah.
And we were just watching this spaceship just go off. And we were very sad. And I knew, oh, I'm not going to see him anymore. And this is very sad. I have to do my work. And then I find myself in my bedroom and I have to get ready for elementary school. And at that time, I didn't know what my work meant. I didn't know what any of that meant. It was just a message that came to me, and I just chose to forget it for a long time. Now it's starting to make sense. And I'm also hoping that I'm starting to meet those other kids that were lined up with me too.
That's something I was going to ask you about because yeah, two things that I noticed right off the bat that seem to happen to a lot of experiencers, which is they never tell their story, right? Well, let me rephrase that. They don't sometimes disclose to the closest people in their life that they would disclose anything else to. Like you said, it wasn't that your parents were hard on you or anything; they were open. There just something seems to almost block this, and the second part being the interaction with knowing other people were there, not necessarily other entities or other off-world aliens or anything like that, but that they were literal. It sounds, if I'm not, hopefully I'm not overstepping my bounds here, but other children from Earth is what you were. It felt like you were experiencing, right? That's man, I always find that story so. I mean, in regards to any person who had an experience as a young child, the commonality of knowing other children was there. That's something that is always resonated with. I've always been drawn to that thing alone. I don't know why necessarily, but that's something I do think it sticks out because the idea that, like you said, have you felt in any way, shape, or form that you needed to find any of these other people or that you might have maybe experienced this with?
I'm open to connecting with them. I'm not sure if I have. Sometimes it feels like I've met someone that I can't describe the closeness that I feel.
Makes
But
sense.
I'm not certain.
I understand that. I mean, I was gonna say it's that's something that's always puzzled me too, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole, right? When you meet somebody that's like you've never
Yeah.
met them, but it's like you know who this person is, and it's a very, I think people know if you've experienced it, you know what it is. Like it's a piece of you recognized as a piece of them, right? It's just something innately in you. But moving on here a little bit, so you're through middle school, things kind of kicked off. They basically ended there, or did you continue to have any sort of interactions, or did it just kind of stop?
As far as the ET stuff goes, I don't have a lot of conscious memories until later. But I will tell you during that time, my parents taught my sister and I how to meditate when I was in fifth grade. So
Wow,
I was
props to them.
meditating, yeah, and our parents and my sister and I would talk about astral planes and past lives, and we have a soul. And so I was at a very young age taught these things, and they felt right and they felt good. So I was having spiritual experiences at a very young age. Plus, I was realizing that I knew things about people that I shouldn't know.
Ah.
And I quickly realized to keep that quiet. And it was just this ability to just pick up on the energy of people and just kind of read them.
Hmm.
Um, and so I've been doing that my whole life. I think that's a combination of the ET experience, because the ET experience does strengthen your paranormal abilities. And also, when I came to America as a little girl, I didn't know English. I didn't learn English until I went to first grade. I went to first grade not even knowing English, and I learned it there. And I think because I couldn't understand what people were saying, I probably plugged into nonverbal communication with people without even realizing what I was doing.
That could make sense. I mean, because like you said, you didn't maybe have the chance to just walk up. We so often, because if we're just communicating with somebody, we just so often forget all the other things, like people's little inflections of their face and how they move and all the other ways we communicate, right? So I could see how one could be forced to definitely tap into something, especially children seem to have those innate abilities that we just seem to, I don't know, suppress or forget over time.
Mhm.
So you were noticing some things. You were noticing you perhaps had a heightened ability to just know things about people. I think at one point I heard you reference to that you started realizing you had an ability. Oh, what do they call it now? There's a different term for it. It's like channeling, but there was another term for it
Yes,
back then. What was that called?
yes. We called it automatic writing back then.
Thank you. That's
And I discovered I could do that around 15, 16. And I did
okay.
that for a long time. And beautiful things would come out. And they were not for me. Just these beautiful messages. And I would just write and write and write. And dead people started showing up. Uh,
Wow.
and they would have messages for the people who were left behind. And they were coming to me in my dreams, and they were coming to me in my wake state. And I didn't know how to control it. I didn't know how to deal with it. I know now that I am in control. But back then, I didn't know that. I thought they were in control, meaning the dead people or the ETs or the otherworldly beings. I thought they were in control, but they're not.
Hmm.
I'm in control. So back then, I thought I just turned the faucet on full and just let them all come, and it's exhausting and I can't go to sleep,
Yeah.
or I completely turn it off. I didn't know that I could control it so that I was comfortable with it. Now I know that.
It makes a difference. Like you said, that's such a, and this is why it's such a great thing that I love what you're doing and many others are doing and have been struggling to, I shouldn't say struggling, but striving to do over the years, which is bring a light to the experiencers and the UFO phenomenon as a whole, but especially those that are experiencing things like this. Really quickly, and I know we're still telling your story here a little bit, but Ghost Dragons just has a question. I don't want to miss it because it slips back in the chat there. They
Oh,
asked, do you astro project?
yeah. Yes, I have. Thank you, Ghost Dragons W.
Yeah, ZW. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Um,
I have. I had this one of the times I did. I was in the shower and I was just washing my hair, and the next thing I know, I'm in the corner of the bathroom and I'm watching myself wash my hair, and it was in such high definition, and it was just for a few
wow.
seconds, and then I popped back in my body. I was like, "What the hell was that?" It was weird.
Yeah, no
Another
kidding.
time, I was in meditation, and this tunnel, my eyes are closed, and I'm looking for images and things on my third eye, and this tunnel, this light beam comes, and then a lady appears, and the lady says to me, "Would you like to come with me?" And I said, "Okay." So we step into this tunnel, and it's an energy beam or a light beam, and we go through it, and then I end up at the top of a hospital room up at the ceiling, and she gets into the bed. And then I see my good friend at the time and her family. And I said to her, "Oh, you're, I don't want to say my friend's name. Let's say it's Sue. Oh,
Okay.
you're Sue's mother." And she said, "Yes, I am." And I had never met her before, ever. And I said, "You just died." And she said, "Yes, I did." And then
Wow.
I came back on my couch, my eyes popped open. And then about 10 minutes later, my girlfriend texted me that her mom had just passed away. And I didn't tell her at that time what had happened. I told her later. And she said that she found a lot of solace and peace in what I said, because to her, that meant that her mother left her body so that she didn't feel the pain, because evidently there was some pain. And it just made her feel good that her mom could leave her body and not feel the pain of those final moments.
Yeah. No, there's some, I mean,
thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you, Ghost Dragon ZW. And you guys, like I said, if you have any questions, please, get a chance, pop them in. I know we're kind of going through Sev's story here a little bit, but feel free to pop them in. I will do my best to get them to her as we go. One of the things did you find it more beneficial or of a hindrance during that time where you were uncertain, where you're just denying? Because do you think in the back of your head you always knew what was going on, but you're just telling yourself a narrative that
yes,
the ETs don't exist? This is just, did you question, if I may ask, your sanity at any point?
Oh, absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
without a doubt. Especially when I started talking to dead people. And so the first time that I was really aware of that was a couple of decades ago, and I was just sitting out on the back porch just getting some sun, and I had my eyes closed, and all of a sudden there was just this man's face in my third eye, like just his head, like right in my face. And he told me his name, and I just popped up and I opened my eyes and I heard this voice say to me, "Go look in the obituaries." So I get up and I look in the obituaries, and I'm thinking, okay, this is crazy. And there was his name. There he was, and he had just passed away. And
Wow.
then it just started coming more and more and more. And I used to do readings for people for their friends and family that have passed away. But
Yeah.
I don't do specific readings for that anymore. In a session, if a deceased loved one pops up, I'll mention it, but I don't specifically do those kind of readings anymore, because you can't always get the person. You can get someone else, but you can't always necessarily get the grandmother. I'm here for my grandmother, and maybe you can't reach her. And that's the part of it that I really don't like, because someone's coming to you and I'm like, well, I can't get my grandmother, but maybe I can get your grandfather or something like that. I think a lot of times people come through that are very significant. They have very important messages. Mm-hmm.
I imagine too. By the way, Josh, Tribute Times Podcast, Josh, I know you know him very well, says hi. Obviously, you guys have hung out quite a bit. I imagine if you were on the other side, I've often thought about, like, what if I did, I've got 3 little ones and a wife, and I've often wondered, what if something just unexpectedly happened, right? And that's why we should always live our life as if it's the last day kind of deal, we'll plan for the next 100 years. But sometimes what if you just end up going and there's something you wanted to say, how earnestly you would seek out any sort of way to find someone who can hear you, no matter who it is. You wouldn't care if this person's there searching for so-and-so who might no longer have a message to give. But if that person has a message, I feel, to deliver, you can't, you're just kind of I could be wrong, it's not something I do, but I would almost picture you as a lightning rod that's just seeking that energy that might be looking to share something. So
Right.
I imagine that can be very frustrating for you too.
Yeah. With one of my clients, right in the middle of her session, all of a sudden this I could see it, she couldn't see it, but this shadow appeared in this room, this tall man with a hat. And I said to her, "There's a tall man with a hat in here." And she goes, "I don't know." And I'm describing him, and she's like, "I don't know." And I said, "Mimi, who's Mimi?" And she goes, "Mimi? Oh my gosh, that's Mimi's father. He passed away, and he was tall, and he wore a hat." And I said, "Well, the message is Mimi. Get in touch with Mimi again." So she got in touch with Mimi and Mimi said, "I'm so happy to hear from you because I'm dying." And so she was able to reunite with her childhood friend right before she died.
Wow. That's, see, like something like that, that's pretty awesome, right? In some ways, I'm sure for the person passing to the other side, transitioning to, has to be quite a bit. Space Cow has a question. They said, does it take willpower for them to punch through easier? I'm not sure if they're referring to when you're maybe some sort of a mediumship there at that point. Space Scout, if you want to be a little more specific on the question, I'll come right back to yours, okay? I promise. Ghost Dragon ZW has another question which says, or it's more of a statement than a question, but I agree with this. It said, would love to have a roundtable with Lynn, Sarah, Sev, and Gemma Jade. That would be, I do think that would be a great time for sure. Yeah, so as this is going on, you're kind of progressing your life, and sometimes this is an area I feel like people kind of forget about, and just it never gets talked about. What was Sev doing during this time? What were your pursuits? What were you doing in life besides dealing with all this? What was going on? I mean, did you go out on a Friday night? Did you pursue sports? What did you do?
That's a really good question. So as I was trying to live my life the best that I could as my inauthentic self, and when you try to live in an inauthentic way, it's not successful. The most success you're going to have is when you're actually give yourself the permission to be the real you. And so I wasn't doing that. So I got divorced twice. I started my own business a couple of times successfully. And I just kept busy, and I would do automatic writing on the side, and I would write pages and pages and pages, these beautiful messages. And then I would tell myself I was insane, and then I would throw them all away. And I would say, I'm not doing this anymore. And then I would do it, and pages and pages and pages. And then I would tell myself I was insane, and I would throw them all away. And I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I was on that roller coaster. I was just trying to I was just trying to make myself happy. And I always thought it was an external search. I thought the happiness was out here. Didn't realize it's inside of me, and I had the happiness the whole time. Yeah. I couldn't reach that happiness until I decided to express the real me. And the real me includes ETs. It doesn't include everyone's path of authenticity does not include ETs, but mine does.
I love that. Like you said, it's such an individual thing. It's not going to be, everybody's not going to need to have aliens or maybe a paranormal experience. Speaking of paranormal, we get back to this a little bit here. Space Cow tried to redefine a little more. They said stronger intent sort of thing to come into this realm, like they want it badly. So I think they're talking about, because the original question was, does it take willpower for them to punch through? So I assume they're asking is when someone is trying to contact you from the other side, and Space Cow, correct me if I'm wrong, does it take a lot of willpower on their part, or are you actually reaching out to them?
Oh, talking with the dead?
Yes.
Okay, that's a really good question.
Space Cow, I hope I'm wording that okay for you, by the way. If I'm not, let me know.
Okay. So we're all in communication with beings in other dimensions. We're all doing that constantly, 24/7. Like as you and I are talking, the bigger parts of us, the other parts of us that exist in the other dimensions are having experiences with other beings too in those dimensions. And so just like we have a frequency, otherworldly beings have a frequency. And we tend to align with similar frequency people, similar frequency situations and places, and also with otherworldly beings. And that's why I talk a lot about increase your vibe and how to increase your vibe, because it's really important. But going back to communicating with a variety of otherworldly beings, because they all have different frequencies, I can feel the difference when I'm communicating with a higher frequency being and with someone who had just died. Because someone who had just died, their frequency is just a little lower than maybe if I'm communicating with a spirit guide. And I'm not saying, and I feel like that's a temporary situation. But when I'm in a reading and I've connected with someone's guide, or I've connected with a being that's of a very high vibration, and then all of a sudden, if a dead person comes in, I feel like I go down frequency. And then the dead person leaves, and then I'm back to a spirit guide, and I go up in frequency. And it's a little tiring, and it can take a lot out of you. But as far as the willpower goes, it takes willpower on both ends, on yours and that other being's. And sometimes people make fun of people who can talk to the dead because they can't always hear the full name. They'll say, oh, it starts with a K. Is it Karen? Is it Kathy? And people think that that's the person just not, just not being honest or truthful.
Yeah.
But because of the change in frequencies, the messages and the sounds can get muddled when you have to go through so many different frequencies. From a higher frequency, we're a lower frequency compared to a lot of these beings. So I'm not saying a dead person is a lower frequency than mine. It's just it's a lower frequency than a lot of other beings that I communicate with.
That makes sense. Space Cow says, thank you, by the way, for your answer. And
Thank
Gospel
you.
of Thomas, 77th Parallel, has a pretty interesting question here. They said, does Sev believe that all or some ETs are metaphysical as opposed to physical/material?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thank you, Gospel of Thomas. So there are some ETs that are tangible and physical. And there's also a lot of ETs that are not. They're light beings that also take forms that we don't understand, and they're in other dimensions and other frequencies. And a lot of people are actually having ET contact this way through the multi-dimensions, and they don't even know it because it feels like a dream. But it's not a dream. It's just that we haven't been conditioned to label such an experience as a true experience. We've been conditioned to label something that's happening in a multidimensional way, which our brain can't come up with a word for, but except call it a dream, and they're not dreams. We can tell the difference between a dream and a real experience. And just about everyone has had some kind of experience. When they wake up, they're like, whoa, that was not a dream.
Yep. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I know that when I was speaking with Terry Lovelace a little while back.
Terry.
Oh, you know, yeah. So Terry,
Yes,
my gosh, it was his story. Because of how I usually have to consume books is like audio format. And I was at work when I had his playing, and when he went over the scene about, you know, like seeing the monkeys in his room, I had to stop it and like pause because it got to me that much. Just it was weird how it finally like clicked a little bit. You know what I mean? Hearing somebody word it differently, that it was just what they wanted him to see, not necessarily like. So your dream might be perceived as like that dream, right? But like you're saying, it's just the way that we condition it, and then I think our subconscious does so much to protect us. Beyond even just the conditioning, I think, is the humans that we've conditioned ourselves down to. But I do think that our subconscious sometimes just, I don't know, it just like catches us and we don't realize it. It knows it would either break you or fracture you or something, because it's like some people have a deep memory of those things that took place. Some of us only get like fractal pieces, and then some have nothing until they have an experience one day that just brings it all back for them. Which in your case, Nicholas, thank you for being here tonight, by the way. And for all those that are out there, we got a lot of listeners on Facebook tonight. Thank you for all the love and the sharing out there. Thank you. Go eat some pizza. Go, you do that. You go eat your pizza. But he says hi. So with your experiences, you're having kind of this, you know, up and down through the relationships. What was the shifting point? I mean, what point did things kind of change? I imagine in my mind, I'm just seeing kind of a roller coaster ride of you find somebody new, things are good again, then maybe things aren't great, and they dip down again, and then we're coming back up. So what was the turning point for you where this kind of started to transition, where you started being to, you know, living to your true self, I guess, as it were?
That was about 15 years ago or so, where I was doing a lot of channeling. And I finally reached the point in my life where I was questioning my sanity so much that it wasn't healthy. So I decided I need an answer. Either I'm crazy, and if I am, I'm going to get help, or I'm not crazy, and I need to do something with all this information that's coming to me. So it just so happened that as soon as I made that intent within me known, I heard about this psychic in Baltimore. This is when I was living in Baltimore, Maryland. I heard about this psychic from two different people. So I told myself, oh, okay, she's the one. She's going to tell me. And I'd never been to a psychic before. Okay. I was very skeptical. And so I went to her, and she said, oh, you should be doing what I'm doing. You can read, you can hear, feel, and see really well. In fact, I want you to tell me where I'm moving to. And I said, oh, really? You mean you're going to tell me where I'm moving? She goes, no, you're going to tell me where I'm moving. And I went, oh, okay. So I closed my eyes and I saw it and I described it. And she goes, yeah, that's it. And so after that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. I feel so good. Now it all makes sense. And then, I don't know, a week or two later, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's just as crazy as I am. So I fell back in the pattern again. Yeah, I didn't believe it again all of a sudden. But it did something to me because I decided, well, I'm going to start doing these readings. So I called my girlfriend and I said, just send me a stranger. I need to read a stranger. And she sent me two, and I did it. And that was about 12 years ago. And so I do soul purpose sessions with clients around the world. And that's how, that was the beginning of my path of authenticity. And then I got divorced. Yeah. So those things happen.
Now, during that time,
authenticity, there could be huge changes.
I agree. Listen, I mean, I'm sure there are a great many deal of very intelligent people who have written in depth on this. So guys, if I'm about to say something that's very common knowledge, I apologize. But Ben and I were just talking about this earlier today. We were talking on the phone and we were talking about how, being genuine to ourselves and who we are, especially as the channel starts to grow, it's very easy to be who and what you are when there's like 3 people watching. But as things grow and more people come in, it's awesome. But just maintaining who and what they are and what we are. And I was telling him, I was like, I just feel like that the universal consciousness, call it whatever you will, recognizes when you're being true to yourself. And I believe that other people can feel and just know that when you're a genuine person. And with us being so fake nowadays with social media platforms and stuff, I feel that it's such a there's something about the human condition and what is drawn to people that are genuine people. And what better thing to be than to be yourself and be loved for being yourself? I mean, I feel like at the end of the day, who wants to be loved for something is it really who you are, So
Easier said than done, though, because we're conditioned. I'm just going to speak for Americans. Americans are really conditioned not to be the real you. But I'm here to say, do it anyway, because there's a lot of rewards there. It could very well be that our government, we could get into how much the government just has a giant thumb over our heads.
It's very true.
With these ET experiences, because I also help experiencers around the world. And if anyone has had an experience, please contact me. You can go to my website, planetsev.com, and go into Tell Me Your ET Story. Tell me your story. It's confidential, and I'll email you back and we'll discuss it, and I'll help you as much as I can. And also on my website, I share some of the ET stories anonymously, and some of the pictures and some of the drawings that experiencers from around the world have sent me. And
I was just seeing Spaced Out Radio. Thank you for that amazing super chat.
Yeah,
even if it is the Canadian dollars.
Nice. Yes, and I really like that. All the messages are coming up on the bottom there. That's really good.
Yep. Yeah, we certainly like to try and share it that way.
Yeah, thank you. So now I forgot what I was saying.
I did drop. So you were talking about where people can find you, which I dropped your link. And guys, again, if you're listening back to this, scroll down to the show notes.
Experiences
in around the world for other people's experiences, and how our government handles it versus perhaps maybe other people's governments.
Thank you. Yeah. So I've had my lab experiences, where I've been with government men and ETs at the same time, and I've also been with government types of people and hybrid babies and things like that. And these are all conscious memories, and some of them are neutral and some of them are not nice. So through my personal experiences, I've discovered this. The government knows who's in contact. The government knows who's made contact. And experiencers are given a lot of information. And the government wants to know this information. And the information that we're given, and I've been given all of this too, is information about technology, information about the future, information, spiritual information, which is very empowering, and a lot of information about oneness, but at the same time, our autonomy. We're still individuals, but we're still one. And this is they give very empowering messages that the government really does not want us to have, because pretty much what they're sharing with us is making us realize how controlled we are. 100%. And so it's not like the ETs are saying, go in the street and fight. They're just making it known that we really have this giant thumb on the top of our heads from the government. And so the government also is very interested in the hybridization program, which I've also had experiences with. And so they try to elicit this information from experiencers, sometimes in a nice way, sometimes in a not so nice way. And a lot of times my lab experiencers are asked to do things, as I was. I was asked to do some kind of paranormal psychic something. I'm not quite clear, but I know that's what they were asking for me. And I said, no, I didn't want to do it, because I knew that it was not going to be used for good. And so these my lab experiences are not warm and fuzzy experiences. We debriefed feel like we're being used in these experiences with humans, and we feel like we're being debriefed almost.
I was going to say Melinda Leslie, and I'm sure you're familiar with some of her work. Yeah. She's done a great work on this about helping clear some of that out, because it can be so distorted for someone who has an experience with the genuine, say, ET entity, and then all of a sudden has a re-abduction, right? And all of a sudden they're going, and if things are fractured in their head, at one point they might be like, well, I'm on a craft, and another point they're like, but I'm in a Jeep, or I'm getting a hold of an SUV, like it's very strange. And there is a lot of things that I think perhaps lead into why a lot of this can't come out, why they won't just come out and say, hey, Apollo 11, welcome tonight. Good to see you. He's bringing the aliens, ghosts, and pizza. Why they can't come right out and admit some things, besides it being a total power shift and the paradigm shift that control and things of that nature. But then they would have to admit to some of the programs that have been going on, some of the atrocities, in my opinion, that have taken place. And who's going to own up to that, right? John and I were hitting on that last week. And actually, this was a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about, do some people have said, do we give them a pass if they've inherited a department that it's not maybe doing good things, and they maybe don't even want to run the department anymore? What do we do? And I don't know that I don't have an answer for any of that, but I think that one thing that certainly you're doing a great job of doing is helping experiencers come out and talk about their experiences, at very least giving an opportunity, like Josh and many others that you've helped, to realize, hey, I'm not crazy. And maybe, unfortunately, people don't always talk about it, but there have been those who have certainly lost their life to this, whether it be self-induced or perhaps somebody else somewhere else took them. And that can be an area that people forget about a lot, is that there's still people that have had a traumatic experience sometimes of some sort at the end of the day, and there's not a ton of resources for that if you've just had your world turned upside down overnight,
Well, these days, there are a lot more resources available than in the past because of the internet. So you can always find some kind of group. And it is really important to come out. I'm not saying you have to come out to everyone you know. I'm not saying you have to come out on a global platform or do a YouTube interview. But it's important you come out to yourself, because
I love that.
If you don't, you're living fake. You're not being the real you. And that is going to affect every single arena of your life. You're going to have difficult relationships. You're not going to find fulfillment. You're always going to be looking for this person to make me happy or that thing to make me happy, because you're not living real. You're being something that you're not. So that's why it's important just to come out to yourself at least. And come out to me. I offer non-judgmental help. And then you'll start walking your path of authenticity. And then you'll see how beautifully that your life changes because of it.
Now, what did you, if you don't mind me asking, what did you get fall? And I do have it here in the scrolling at the bottom. I'm also going to drop it in the chat. Fab, good to see you here tonight, brother. Which is, MUFON being obviously, the one I just dropped is a link to your channel, which people should check out, your website, because there are many other resources there. But I will get a link to everybody in just a second here for MUFON. But when did you start working with them, or what was your, how did you run into that? Because I know that tied back to some of your initial reaching out, going, okay, I'm going to get help, I'm going to do something. So who got you in touch with MUFON, or how did that happen?
Oh, thank you for asking. So I'm a field investigator for MUFON for the state of North Carolina, and I'm also on the Experiencer Resource Team, which is made up of only 55 people around the world, and we specifically deal with people who contact us that have made contact with ETs. So as a field investigator, a lot of that work is talking to people who submit pictures of lights in the sky, or they've seen something strange, and we fill out those cases, and we take hours and hours to work on these cases. But the ERT, or the Experiencer Resource Team, we're dealing with people who have had direct contact with ETs, and some of them can handle it, and some of them just need to talk to somebody and just get it out. So after I got the second X on my tush, and I knew I needed help, I decided I was just going to organically let my help come, because I didn't know who was going to help me. So one of my best friends, Elizabeth, who lives on the island of Maui in Hawaii, she contacted me one day, and she said, you really should watch Unacknowledged by Dr. Stephen Greer. So I watched it one afternoon, and that lit a fire under me. And as soon as I finished watching it, I went to my computer, I sat down, and I said, that's it. I'm going to send a picture of my ex to somebody. Yeah. But I don't know who. And then I heard in my head, MUFON. So I Googled MUFON. I didn't know really about it. And it's Virtual UFO Network, the largest organization in the world that deals with UFO and ET research. And so I went on their website, and there was Kathleen Martin, who's renowned, who's very well known, the niece of Betty and Barney Hill, and one of the leading top researchers in this world. And I saw her picture, and I'm like, that's it, she's going to help me. So I emailed her, and about 2 days later, she emailed me right back. And then we Skyped, and she spent about an hour and a half with me, and she validated everything for me. And it was such an important phone call. And I said to her, what am I supposed to do with all the information that the Greys have given me about the hybridization program and the fate of the Earth and all this other information that I have? Because I see in my mind's eye, I see myself on stage talking to people. What am I supposed to do? She goes, Sev, I can't tell you what to do. You have to figure out what to do. So after that phone call, I just told myself, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to let it organically happen. If I do something, I do. If I don't, I don't, whatever. Yeah. And then a couple of months later, I woke up and I announced I'm writing a book. And I wrote the book, and it was my coming out. And then shortly, I think right after the book came out, AlienCon contacted me. This was 2018 in Baltimore, to come speak at AlienCon. And that's where I met a lot of experiencers. And that's when I realized, oh, this is what I want to do. I want to help experiencers, because lots of people came up to my table and said, I've never told anyone this before, but I'm going to tell you. And that's music to my ears. And it happened so much, I realized, oh my gosh, I wonder if maybe you're in the minority if you're not having ET contact. I'm beginning to think that. Yeah. And it's so this is something again that Ben and I, kind of funny synchronicity. We were just talking about that tonight, just saying the amount of people out there that more than likely have had some contact in their life. And I don't know what the decision-making process is. Maybe even for yourself. I've heard you reference that you don't know that you were specifically specially chosen, and maybe you were. I mean, I think that you've had some pretty amazing experiences. For instance, let's hit on some of the messages you were given. I mean, when did that become clear to you? When did you get a download or a clear realization of that? But actually, really quick, before I jump in that, because I'm going to miss it otherwise, Gospel 77, and it leads into what we're talking about anyways. 77th Paranoid asked, I've heard that some experiencers feel that they are being trained
to be facilitators or guides to people once the ETs announce themselves to humanity. What are Sev's thoughts? So in that spirit of his question or her question, what are your thoughts on that, as well as when you received this download? What were the information that you received?
Well, thank you for that question. And often that is what happens. Maybe in the very beginning when an experiencer comes out, they're not even thinking of really coming out and telling other people. But it seems to naturally happen. The more that they investigate, the more they feel more comfortable with it. Eventually, many experiencers just announce, well, I have to tell the world now. Like, I can't hide this. And I can't tell you why I have to tell the world. But just like me, I can't tell you why I have to do this. I just know I have to frickin' do it. And if I don't do it, I'm not going to be happy. That's all I know. There's just like this drive that comes within you. So is this something that's chosen before we incarnate into this body? Possibly. I do help people discover their soul purpose. And there is a purpose that we all share, a collective purpose, which is to love as much as possible. And that starts with ourselves, which is where most of us get tripped up. But in the act of loving yourself and showing love for yourself, that's when you express your authenticity. And so when I decided to show love for myself, that's when I started healing. And that's when I started facing my lifetime of experiences. And I'm not afraid of it anymore. And I don't want it to go away. I want it to continue because it does continue. And most experiencers who've been surveyed, most of them say they don't want it to stop. In the beginning, they were afraid, but after a while, they're like, no, I don't want to stop because this is like, it's brilliant, it's amazing, and it's changing the person in a beautiful way.
So for yourself, because I don't want to necessarily, pigeonhole towards anything, but I do have one question. I wasn't sure the chronological order that it happened in, which was there was a moment where you were being shown, I believe a young, one could say a child of some sort, either human or whatever, in a tube or cryo chamber of some sort. Was that prior to the marks or after? When was that transition?
Yeah, that was prior. I was shown a baby in a tube in 2012. And then, yes, that's it. And then in 2016, I went to Roswell and I made contact with the Greys in Roswell. And then they referred to this time that they showed me a baby in a tube. So when I was shown this baby in a tube, I had not come out. I had just left my second marriage. I was healing. I was living in an apartment all by myself. And the doors just flew open as far as ET contact went. It was a lot. And so I was shown this baby in this tube, as you can see. It was floating in a liquid and the room was just dark. I couldn't see anything else in the room. And the baby's eyes were open and they were the bluest eyes I have ever seen in my life. And even though the baby's leg was positioned in such a way that I couldn't see the sex, I knew it was a boy. So I'm looking at this baby in a tube. I'm confused. I don't know why I'm looking at a baby in a tube. Why is there a baby in liquid? And it was illuminated. And then I felt something behind me. And I turned around, and that's when there were 3 Greys, tall, medium, and short. And back then, I didn't know that Greys came in different sizes.
You just saw them as one standard set, right?
Yeah. And they said to me telepathically, take your time, take all the time that you need. We're just going to stay back here. Everything's okay. And I turned around and I looked at the baby and I'm still like, what? I don't understand. What's going on? And then I popped back in my bedroom and I told myself, forget about it. I didn't tell anybody and I just ignore it. Well, in Roswell, which was a completely unexpected trip, they reminded me of that and they said, you are part of the hybridization program. And they gave me a lot of information that there are lots of people who are part of the hybridization program and they don't know. And there are actually billions of these embryos that they've created. Now, I'm just talking about the hybridization between humans and the Greys. There's other hybridization hybridization programs too. And like I said, I have a MILAB experience where I was healing hybrid babies with with a human doctor and a human nurse. And I don't know what hybridization program that was. The babies were very sickly and they wanted me to heal them, which is something that I hear a lot from experiencers who also have hybrid experiences where they're handed a baby, and for the baby to grow in a healthy fashion, that they have to like connect with the Earth Mother.
Yeah, because Samantha Moa, she hits on that a lot. Well, she's not the only one. You're right. There are many that have had instances like that, right, where they've had to need some sort of connection. And I
Yes.
think if you look at it's terrible they've even studied the skies, but this was real work that was done back in the day in the 40s and 30s even. They actually studied how long human babies would last without physical contact.
Yes.
And it was terrible stuff. Well, it was stuff that, the Germans were studying back in the day. And it was a majority of the babies, and I don't know the exact percentage, but I want to say it was well over almost 80% that didn't make it if they were not touched by humans in the beginning. So there is something about us needing. I mean, think anybody who's ever been around a little baby in the beginning. Anyways, anybody certainly if you've been a mom and you've birthed any children, when they come out, I mean they're just right. They're there and they grab on and they feel and they're needing that. They just want to cuddle in. I think that something must be about us, maybe in our DNA, that needs that touch. I don't know what it is, but it's interesting to know that there was studies done on that. A messed up study for indeed, Simon. Like I said, I don't remember the exact name of the study, but I do remember that it was something that was studied, and they unfortunately have numbers based on that. But yeah, for you, what was that? I mean, what was that? What was in your mind when they're kind of, I guess, coming to you and like, hey, Sev, you've got to heal this baby. I mean, I would almost I'm not a doctor. I don't know if you're a doctor. Like, did you have a background in this? I mean, what were you thinking?
Well, I have a biology degree from Loyola, and I was pre-med. And I had
Okay.
an internship at University of Maryland Hospital when I was in college. And then when in my senior year or my junior year, I can't remember, I decided I didn't want to go to med school.
Hmm.
Uh, but in this experience that I had where I was handed these two babies to heal, once again, I didn't feel like they were mine. And it
Yeah.
was a human doctor that was standing next to me. And I got the feeling that I don't know if I was being tested, but it felt like I had been groomed for this, and that this was like my final proof that I could do it to this doctor. Like the doctor was observing me. So
Hmm.
he handed me this one baby, and it had dark hair and dark eyes and a human head, and it was swaddled in a lot of cloth.
Okay.
So it was spitting up blood.
Oh no.
So I put my hands on it and tried to heal it. And then they took that baby away. And then they brought me another one that was also human head, spitting up blood. So I put my hands on it, and then it started to roll off the table. It was like a surgical table. And so I went to grab all its cloth. And as I did, the cloth came off, and I saw its body was super skinny, like the neck the size of my pinky, and
Oh
its
my
arms really
gosh.
skinny. And I went, and then that's all I remember.
Wow. Do you think that there was swaddling process was twofold? Maybe actually to keep them intact, to keep them warm, and also to prevent, like, are we that fragile or fickle, our minds sometimes as humans, that if we see something that just challenges our reality as we know it, that there's a moment where we just, because so often it seems like in your instance there where you've seen something that's not normal, you have this reaction and all of a sudden you're back, or you're out of the experience. And I never can seem to wrap my head around that. That's why certain people that have had such in-depth experiences sometimes, not always did they keep their cool, but there have been some. We take the Carl Higdon abduction, for instance, when he was like, they were like, hey, also one basically just says, hey to him, and he's like, hey, what's up? Like he says, hey, what's up back? But he still, again, had those pop situations where he's popping in and out of different spaces. But I just wonder if why they, I guess, would react to you that way versus just saying, hey, this is the process, because I don't know. I mean, I guess those are some of those lifelong questions that we'll always strive to kind of know. Certainly yourself more than even me. I mean, you experienced it, so.
It was just a shock to the senses. Like if they had handed me that baby coughing up blood with like a huge head compared to its body, with like a little tiny alien body and a normal head, like I don't know if I would have wanted to touch it. I don't know if maybe I could have sent as much love to it. I would have been so freaked out. And just because the memory ends there doesn't mean the experience ends there.
Very true.
The memory ends there. So maybe later I might remember more. So I do believe that memories and information and thought have energy to them. And what we call aha moments are simply just the alignment of the energy of a particular knowledge with your energy. And so because we have all the answers within us, and they all have their own energetic imprint to them. And as we raise our personal vibration, then we can plug into this information that's of a higher frequency as well. And sometimes we call those aha moments. But it's just simply, oh, I've aligned with the energy of this information. Now I understand it.
That makes sense. And that's so true. Like, even, my goodness, we say this all the time, and I'll probably say for the rest of my life, because we'll always be learning, right? Or striving to be better and learn, is that the things that we perceived or even thought about considering a year ago, 2 years, let alone 5, 10 years ago. So I guess like you're talking about that ascension of just, I guess, stepping up the vibrational chain, I guess, if you want to call it, whatever you might want to call it, to become more comfortable. There's things that I think about now just as a readily, like some of the stuff Ben and I were talking about today, where to have that conversation 2 years ago, we both would have been very, very trepidatious to speak to each other about it, because it was so like, it's all consciousness based. It's all just frequency based on these things that just technically we haven't 100% proven yet. And I'm at the point where I don't need that sign.
I think there's proof.
I believe there is too. Proof. I believe there's enough proof there. They just don't want to put their little stamp of approval on it yet. Gospel has another question for us. Says, hey, has Sev considered that the military people at abduction events are ETs in disguise to make the person feel at ease? If not, why would the military allow humans to see them? So that's kind of interesting.
Yes, I have thought about that, and it is very possible. And that reminds me of an experience I had where I was in this government type office, and I've been in this room before. And there's an office across from it, and there is just this big window serving as a partition. And I sit at this table, and I've been there before. And so one time there was one of those young military men standing next to me, and looking into the other office through the window, and they bring in a gray. And the man says to me, "This is the original gray." And they take that one out in a shorter one. And he said, "This is the hybrid of the original gray." And then they took that one out, and then they brought in the short one, the little one. And they said, "That's the hybrid of the original." And then I understood with each descent, so to speak, or with each hybridization, the sentience of the being was removed. So the original gray had sentience and a consciousness just like we do. The middle one kinda, and then the small one was truly much more robotic.
Which is kind of sad. I mean, but I can see where we're on the precipice. We as a species, as humans here, I can see where we've got to be careful how we make that step. I don't think there's no going back. We're already there. With some sort of a merge. I just think at what process or what limitations we put on that to where we don't lose things that are, I guess, innately what we consider to be human. But it is weird because there's certain things that, like I have tons of issues concentrating. I'm terrible. I've never been a good reader for these reasons. I've never, whatever. So if somehow I could just take that little cork out of me, right? I suppose some days it would help me. It would help with certain things. But at the same time, it's been a beautiful thing for me for like interacting with groups of people. And when I'm doing things that require multiple attention spans, then it works well. But when it requires that focus source, then I consider it a hindrance. But I don't know that ultimately I'd want to trade it away. As much as it has been a struggle, it is a part of me and it's who I am. So I don't know. I really struggle with that idea of like the merging with some sort of a sentient being, or excuse me, not sentient, but an AI process, I guess. Is that kind of what you were getting from them, that that's what's happened in their line, or no?
Yes, I understand what you're saying, and it definitely is a cause for concern because God knows what the Chinese are doing. They probably have a half baby, half monkey already. I mean, you can't. The Chinese are
Yeah,
doing
you never
weird things.
know.
Maybe not just the Chinese, but other countries too. I'm sure there's all kinds of weird mutations and hybrids already existing on Earth. Um, uh, but as far as you were talking about your focus and that you were saying that you don't have focus. Is that what you were saying, Will?
I have. Thank you, Ben, for joining your very own YouTube channel. Thank you so much, brother, for supporting that and becoming a
That's
member.
cool. I promise you.
We love it. What I was saying is, yeah, I have. Oh my gosh, what is the technical term for it, guys? Somebody in the chat help me out. This is kind of an example of it. The like, is it attention deficit disorder, or whatever it's called? Like, I don't concentrate very well when something doesn't grasp my attention. If it grasps my
Oh,
attention, then I'm enthralled, right? Then I'm
well,
into it. I'm
well,
almost
that makes
obsessed.
sense.
But
That's normal. Why do we have to give those like initials, like letters? Like,
true,
that's
true.
normal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, Trippy, excuse me if I did miss a question. Let me scroll back here. I apologize, guys. Let's see
I
real
love
quick.
all these questions.
Yeah, that was my fault for falling behind on them over here. Looks like Josh had a question. I don't believe I've
Hi,
mentioned
John.
this to you as I've tried to avoid thinking about it. I've had reoccurring dreams with black-eyed, emotionless humans
Wow.
getting creeps texting it. Any opinions?
Yes. Mhm.
So what are your thoughts, I guess, on that, and for anybody who might be
Um,
experiencing that?
I have talked with several experiencers who have met these beings that are hybrid-like that have big black eyes.
Hmm.
Now, I've also spoke with people who said that the big black eyes of grays, their eyes really aren't black, that's a type of shield. So
Hmm.
going back to these kind of creepy hybrid, like half human, they tend to be young, like kids. People say that I saw like this kid, which is like all black eyes. So I'm not sure if they really are all black or if they're also wearing that shield that people claim that the Greys wear in order to interact with us. But it is not uncommon for people to meet these hybrid-like characters whose eyes are all black.
Hmm. Yeah, I suppose that's true because I believe even oh my gosh,
Thank you, Josh.
so many blank questions here tonight, or my mind drawn a blank. And thank you, yes, Josh, for that amazing question. Which was the question I was trying to think of. Oh, Mr. Bledsoe, when he had referred to some of the excuse me, let me go back. I'm mixing up my events here. Ron Felber with the Mojave Desert incident, where they had all these beings and crafts kind of descend upon them, and they talked about all these little red eyes, and they were very excited little creatures that were just teeming about all over the place, right? They said hundreds with their particular encounter. And then I had heard an interview that Chris Bledsoe did, referring to saying that the red-eyed children, or some of the red, when you see that, that they're essentially kind of, they're younger or children, and that they're in a protective suit. Now, whether there's truth to that, I don't know, but I just in my head pictured, I thought, how funny is it? We put our kids when they go on bikes and stuff, we put all this protective gear on them. So I was imagining like just these rambunctious little Greys that are on a new planet. They're all excited, and they're like, listen, we got to suit these guys up in like little protective gear so they don't hurt themselves or somebody else. So have you
Yes,
ever heard of that, or
yes.
heard?
I've
Really
actually,
interesting.
I know Chris Bledsoe. He lives just
Oh,
a
very
couple
nice.
hours from me in North Carolina. And I was introduced to him through Grant Cameron, who also
Okay,
introduced
yeah,
me to a
great
time.
guy
I'm
too.
really fond of Grant Cameron. Yeah, he does great work in Canada.
He does.
And so I had an experience here where I saw these small, I actually have a drawing of it. I talk about this experience on my YouTube channel, Alien Spirit TV. I call it the White Dog Encounter. And I saw this white being. It's about this tall, kind of resembled Casper the Ghost, kind of the way it was shaped, but it was really white and illuminated like a light bulb. And he came into the room. I was sitting in this room. I was not on Earth. I was in another city somewhere else. I was sitting in this room, and this like illuminated being comes in with this, looked like a dog. It was on all fours. And
Okay.
so this dog gets on this table and I'm looking at it really close up. I'm like, why am I looking at this dog? And its skin was really, really thin. Like I could see the veins underneath it. So, and I've also seen blue beings.
Okay.
So I did not know that Chris Bledsoe had seen these. And then after I saw these beings, I listened to Chris's account, and he said that his son saw these four-legged beings, and a four-legged being chased their truck. And the way they described it, it was exactly like the four-legged being I saw. So we both saw that four-legged being, we saw that white being, and we both saw these blue, more like light entities. And I was also given the information, just like you're saying, just like Chris got, that the four-legged ones were like the juveniles of the blue entities. And the small white ones were like an in-between stage, and kind of like pupa or something, but they just transformed. And as they were maturing, they took on different body types. And so it could very well be exactly what you said, Will, that it could be like a covering to keep that light in, because that four-legged thing that looked like a dog, its skin or whatever it was over, it was so see-through and just so transparent and so thin. So it could very well be, so those different types of stories from different types of people just put in all the missing pieces, and they're all validation, which is really nice.
Yeah, as if I think what's that? I apologize.
No, I was just responding to ufologists.
Oh, yeah. She has my undivided attention. That is a good thing, guys. That is the goal, right? That is, I think everything is a tool. So in regards to the internet, the pros and cons of it, this is one of the beautiful things about it, is that those that have opened up and shared there's been a massive wave. I think there's a gentleman we hang out with quite a bit named Spooky Morales, and he was talking about the idea of, obviously, over the past 5 to 6 years, we've had a lot of people just start talking about the phenomenon as a whole, taking it a lot more seriously. But take consciousness. 2 years ago, nobody hardly was talking about that. Well, there were those, but not the masses weren't really considering consciousness aspect of it, myself included. And it's so pleasant to see a massive shift in that regard, because I do think that there's a lot of this is. I do think parts of it are tangible, but I think that us having that like absolute answer, maybe to some it'll come, but for me, I'm completely okay with if it doesn't. I'm enjoying the journey, right, and wherever it takes us. But I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel that a lot of people, we hang out like in the groups and stuff afterwards, after hours, we're not even on shows, just talking, feel there's a wave of something coming, right? Don't know what it is, but things are shifting and changing, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'd love to get your input on this. Does it feel like something is still fighting this? And in fighting it, I would like to point out that I don't think it's just the U.S. government is part of this. But is there something else that's preventing this outside of outside of humans that are holding it up?
Okay, so going back to what I was talking about, how everything has a vibration, and so otherworldly beings have a vibration, and there are some beings that have a lower frequency. And so, they also have their agendas too. And this lower frequency, when we come in contact with them, is so uncomfortable that we label them as mean or evil or bad. And that's not necessarily the case. It's just that that's what we label something that makes us uncomfortable, because it's such a different frequency or a different vibration. And I've actually come in contact with an astral men in black, which was a scary experience. That was really intense. And it was like an energetic battle, because I could feel it. It was just a foot from my bed in the middle of the night. I woke up and there was this tall black being with a hat. And he was attached to a friend of mine who was visiting me for a few days. And when I opened my eyes and I saw it, instantly I felt its energy just start to come inside of me. And like, it felt like it just wanted to come inside of me and grab me and just pull me out. And so I said, no. I'm like, nope, this isn't going to happen. You have to go. And it put up a fight. There was an energetic battle, but I won because I know I'm in control. And after that experience, I realized a lot of people don't know that they're in control. And the energy from that being was really dense, and it was almost overwhelming. So for a lot of people who come in contact with beings like that, you can fight it. And if they know that you absolutely are serious, that you want nothing to do with that being, they will leave you alone. But if there's a little bit of you that's saying, oh, this is kind of cool, well, they hang out. So you have to be very, very persistent in saying, I don't have fear, because what that being lived off of was fear. And it was attached to my girlfriend, who was in a state of fear at that particular moment. And I just said, I don't have food for you. I don't have what nourishes you. And so
sums that up for you.
Go suck off of someone else's fear. I don't have it.
Exactly. I love that Enzo, he thoroughly believes in you. He says you have no problem kicking anybody's butt who would need it. So, but you do bring up a good point about that, because I know we've had those in the past that have said that no one wants to talk about the fact that if somebody mentions, like maybe like Jesus' name or whatever you believe in, whoever your deity is, but it's that idea that you're calling us some sort of a faith. You're establishing yourself to say, no, I have power in this situation.
Yeah.
Again, I don't get hung up necessarily on one person's, God that they worship one way or the other, but they don't always address that topic in ufology sometimes. And it's like, well, it does happen where people, and that's why they get chalked to being a demonic experience generally, right? Then they roll it over to that immediately. They're like, well, it was a demonic force because they called in the name of, whoever, and it stopped it. But you're saying it's not so much it. It's just establishing that you have control of your situation, and that you're not open to something, right? So I think that is key. I've never really thought of it that way.
Also, the more you work at raising your frequency, the more you're going to be aligned with high frequency beings. But every now and then, even if your frequency is high, you could still be poked with a lower frequency being. Because, when we go visit people and when we're walking around and living, we take our entities with us. So when my girlfriend came to stay with me, this was her entity. And I didn't realize it at the time. Afterwards, I realized that entity was attached to her. And so it was just poking around. It just happened to be there. But this is the beauty of raising your frequency. And on my YouTube channel, Alien Spirit TV, I offer free videos about how to raise your frequency, why you would want to. And I also offer guided meditations that I've created to help you raise your frequency so you can connect with otherworldly beings in a very safe manner.
Love that. And I think a lot of people, I love that that's becoming something that's much more talked about these days, that it is an option. If it's done safely, it's just helping educate people on what how to do it in a safe way that's going to be good for them health-wise, mentally too. Kathy Splash, thank you for being here tonight. And, I guess, I didn't even realize time has flown right by for us. So I apologize, first of all, for that. Every time we get going along, I always lose track of the time. Not hard to do. So with us having just a couple... Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it just went by quick because I just glanced at the time too, and I can't believe it's been an hour and a half.
I sure can. Tammy wants to know if I can post your link. Guys, by the way, all links for anything she has mentioned, if you go down in the show notes, I've got them broke down each individually. So if you want to go submit anything that she's mentioned individually on there, they're all broken down individually with their own links. So please feel free to go check that out. Kathy Smash, namaste to you too as well. And thank you for being here tonight. So really quick then, with us just having a couple minutes left here, what are some key things, some key takeaways you would encourage for other people who are maybe having an experience or think they've had an experience at this point? What is a starting point for them at this, to start out, I guess, at this very moment? What is something they can do in this moment if they're listening?
Okay. Just stop hiding it. Come out to yourself, admit it to yourself, or contact me and come out to me. Find somebody, go online, find a group, but just tell somebody. And it can just be yourself. That's the most important thing, just to get it out there so you can start processing it, so you don't start hiding it. Most important thing really for you to find fulfillment, success, and peace is to live as the real you, to live giving yourself the permission to live authentically. And that's not going to happen if you have a big secret.
Yeah. Yep. I can't imagine too. I don't think we think about that too, like on a molecular level, what that does to, you as a being is this vibrating, literally vibrating being. If you're killing cells or whatever pressure, the weight of suppressing yourself to yourself, that's got to be devastating. And I know we all do it because, like you said, so much easier said than done. So I know I'm guilty of this. There are parts of myself that I'm still trying to live true to. And it's not easy, right? Like you said, it's so much easier said than done. And then actually living that out is a whole nother thing.
It's
In
worth
just
it.
general, without adding in like, the other interactions you might be having with maybe multidimensional beings or those that have passed on. That's a whole nother level then, right? But that is something I'm very excited that you're doing, and there's many others that are doing incredible work this way too.
Yes.
Really quickly too, let's hit on this really quick, which is, and guys, if you have any last minute questions for Sev here, please put them up because we only have about 5 more minutes with her. I'm going to let her get out of this evening hanging out with us, which is you do have the symposium that's coming up in July, I believe, of 2022, right?
Yes.
If I'm not
The
mistaken.
MUFON International Symposium, where I'm so honored that I'm going to be the master of ceremonies. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah.
There was something I wanted to say. I'm sorry to cut
Oh
you
yeah,
off.
no, go ahead.
Earlier, you were talking about consciousness, and I just wanted to say that as a MUFON investigator, we can see the shift. MUFON investigators see the shift from more of a 3D experience to more of an experience through the consciousness, because your mind is just a playground of the consciousness. And so this is a big shift that's happening, even with the reporting that we're getting at MUFON.
I love that. That's very intriguing because you guys get to see a whole another part of this that we don't get to see at all, which is very exciting.
Wow.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think Lynn Wallington and Dave Scott might be at the same one as you. I could be wrong on that though. I could be wrong, guys. So if I'm misspeaking, please forgive me. I don't know if they're for sure that one or not, but I know they've got a couple events coming on this year, which I'm glad. I'm hoping some of the events can go
Dave
through.
Scott's going to be there.
He is going to be at that one? Okay. Then if he is, I'm pretty sure that Lynn's going to, I think she got added just recently here. So it's going to be a good time. You guys are, and obviously you guys, Dave Scott, Spaced Out Radio. I believe, Sev, you said you're going to be on like a month with them, right? Give or take?
I'm going to be on, I believe, on the 22nd of February.
22nd of February. So you put it in your calendar, somewhere in there, right? And you guys obviously can catch me tomorrow night with the After Hours show with myself. Gemma Jade's got this weekend off, but we got John Hudson, and then Thin Lizzie Borden is coming on to hang out and is going to be a part of the team now over there. So that's going to be exciting, good times. And I'm just seeing if I have any questions in here. I thought I seen one. Josh just wanted to say I owe Sev and Chris Bledsoe a ton of gratitude. Thank you, Sev. I gotta go. Congratulations. Good night, everyone. Later, Big Willy. You get some sleep tonight, Josh. Make sure you rest up. Hopefully, you're able to get some good sleep tonight.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Josh is a fantastic story because I was introduced to Josh through MUFON only in September. And in just a few short months, he's had this spiritual blossoming that's just outstanding. And now he has his own podcast. It happens very quickly, and he's a perfect example of the spiritual blossoming that happens to people who come in contact.
I do. He's a great guy, and he's, like I said, there's a difference when people share the experiences they think that maybe they've not everybody does this, but some people embellish or rehearse some of the stuff, and then I don't think I enjoy when somebody shares a story and it's maybe not polished and clean and just perfect, because it's raw and it's real, and it's a lot of what Joe and Ben have done here is just allow people to come on and share those experiences. And sometimes it's people's first times ever sharing it with anybody, On
your show?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Not so much with me, but like a lot with them. They've got a great gift that they've done a lot that way for people to just share. And you can tell, sometimes they don't always have the greatest mics or whatever it might be, but those stories are genuine and they're real. And there's someone else there more than likely who's hearing that's had that same experience. And for them, man, that's got, how much of a relief it has to be to somebody to be able to hear someone else who's had, you're like, oh my gosh, I thought I was crazy. And to hear that someone else has had this. So as John, there's Ben in the chat. Ben, thank you for allowing this. The reason you and I are even here tonight, Sev, is because Joe and Ben got together and said, dude, let's go do a podcast, and they own it. So it's been a great time. So guys, once again, all the show notes or links to everything are in the show notes. And you'll be able to catch her on Spaced Out Radio with Mr. Dave Scott, the 22nd, give or take, somewhere in there, of February, somewhere in that range. And you'll also be able to catch her, and if you can make it out, in 2022 there, or 22, we are in 2022. Oh my gosh. How did I just realize, guys, I just forgot a whole year was here already. My goodness. Way to start the year, the year out there already. So, Sev, anything you'd like to say in closing, though? Any words you'd like to send people off with before I get you out of here this fine evening and let you enjoy what's left of your weekend here?
Oh, well, thank you. This was really fun. I love interacting with listeners and viewers live. So I'm really grateful for this platform that you've created. It's very important. And I'm honored to be your guest. And thank you, everyone who wrote in for questions and who is supporting Will, and also just supporting this movement of basically it's just an awareness expansion. That's all that's happening. We're just expanding our awareness.
Love it. I do love that. I can think of no better words than to really end it on that. So guys, as I always say, Sev, when I'm sending everybody off, thank you for being our guest this evening. Thank you for sharing. I know we had so much more we could have gotten to. Guys, there's so many other places you can catch your interviews on, from coast to coast, to raising your experiences. There's a ton of them. And you go on our website, they're listed on there. So if you want to get a little more in-depth on some of her life experiences, please go check that out. And as I always say, as we're heading out for the evening, please stay curious and keep it weird.